Hi, beautiful souls. I'm Elizabeth, and welcome to Untangling the Heart. This time is for you. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, whatever it is that brings you a sense of comfort. Sit back, relax, and settle in. As you listen today, just notice what resonates for you. There may be something here meant just for you. It's so good to have you here. Today's episode is focusing on moving beyond coping and what real healing looks like. And I am so honored to introduce my guest today, Diane Rossow. She is going to be sharing her beautiful and heart-filled soul with us today and taking us on a journey of healing and how she traveled through that. Diane, I'm so grateful you're here today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's absolutely my honor.
Beautiful. So let's begin wherever it feels most true for you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Well, Elizabeth, 6 years ago, I am not a medical doctor, scientist, researcher, or a microbiologist, okay? But what I knew was that my daughter, at 42 years old, had a hip surgery that had gone bad, which required 5 more hip surgeries, and she had not been able to work for 6 years and was now an opioid addict. She was on 26 medications a day under doctor's orders. The phone call that dropped me to my knees was, "Mom, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done fighting." Every time I share this with anyone, it still stops my heart, Elizabeth. I begged her for 24 hours. Just give me 24 hours and I will come up with something. She promised she would. I hung up the phone, dropped to my knees in prayer, and thought, oh my Lord, what am I going to know in 24 hours that I don't know today? I begged, Elizabeth, I begged for some intervention, for some help. And that afternoon, I got a phone call about a cell signaling molecule product that could help all kinds of things in the human body. I asked, does that mean it will help me with my arthritis? It will help me with, other kinds of issues in my gut, with my daughter's opioid addiction, with her not being able to walk? Yes, yes, yes. So in my arrogance, I said, that sounds too good to be true.
Mm.
And I was taught that if it sounds that way, it probably is. So I hung up the phone, thanked her for her sweet call, and hung up. The next morning, I was on my knees, not very reverent this time, very terrified. 6 hours left before I had to make the phone call. And I heard, as loud as you and I are talking, I told you yesterday. So I picked up the phone, Elizabeth. I called her back and said, I need to try this product. My daughter, then that call was next. I told her I had this product coming. I was going to give it a few days. Would she join me if I thought it was valuable? It gave her hope, just knowing there was something else to do, something different than everything she had tried. So we got product. I'm going to fast forward through all these about 10 months. We took this product diligently. We mapped what was going on with ourselves. We were both having amazing results from this product. And it was crazy because what I then did during this time, because it's who I am, the research of what this is and why it works and what is it actually doing inside. So I became this little bit of nurse, little bit of doctor, little bit of researcher, little bit of biochemist to understand what was going on in the human body. The shortest way to say what this product does is it's bioidentical to the way our body produces cell signaling molecules. So, having said that, there's no sugar, there's no additives. It doesn't, 7 patents, it doesn't really taste that good. But it's all about what the body does. So because disease is really supported by inflammation, this is what my daughter was full of, was all this inflammation from all these surgeries, these medications, 26 medications a day under doctor's orders. During this time, we started taking every medicine she was on, looking at every single ingredient, identifying, can we drop this medication by ourselves or do we need help from a doctor?
Right.
The ingredients were terrifying, absolutely terrifying. You wouldn't give them to a farm animal, let alone a human body. And so we started making some very pretty quick decisions about dropping this one, taking blood pressure every day before we drop that one, etc. And then Elizabeth, she was so into it by now. She had had so much progress. She was done with opioids because the inflammation went down. She didn't need the painkillers anymore. She was out walking again. She was doing a few things that were giving her life back. After she moved in with me to complete the recovery, I went to my knees again and said, okay, with all this inflammation in the body that the medical complex gives all these different labels, what is it that causes the inflammation in the first place? That's when I was led down the path of toxicity. Toxicity in the form of heavy metals, chemicals, and parasites. Literally bugs. Elizabeth, it's in our food, it's in our water, it's in the air we breathe, it's in the medicines we take. So understanding that took us down the path of continuing the cell signaling molecules to increase the strength and circulation of the body, but adding detoxing from heavy metals and from these chemicals and even noxious fumes. Like if you work in a gas station, you're collecting in your body through your skin and breathing all these fumes. And parasites. I was a big sushi eater, so I had very different worms in my body than my daughter did. But worms also get passed in the womb. So when people have, oh, my mother had that, or oh, my sister has that, or whatever that is, it could be something, a parasite that was passed in the womb.
Sure.
Because I'm not a doctor, because I'm not, versed in that, all of these sciences, I have to find products that do not cause harm, that cannot interfere with existing medications that people are on. So that's what I did. I went out to, again, search something similar to these cell signaling molecules that I couldn't hurt anybody with, but that would eradicate the parasites that were floating in her body, that were burrowing in her organs, that were in her circulatory system. And then found not only what I was looking for to get rid of that, but in the same company found something that would capture and eliminate the toxicity that comes from heavy metals and chemicals. It took us to a whole new level of healing for her.
And let me ask you, Diane, if I may, because I love that. And I'd love to reflect. And thank you so much for sharing that. What a scary time. And I heard you say the word terror a couple of times, right? And we've all had situations where we've been through. It's almost like the end of our rope, right? And that's what I see that it felt like for her and for you. And it's like, I'm going to give up. And yet there's always something else. And I loved that you, as you said, you dropped to your knees and you prayed and you actually heard and you didn't listen the first time. I've had that experience before too, where I've had to be told 3 times. I've been told I'm stubborn, and it's not that you're stubborn, but it's like, what? Yeah, no, right? No. And
Yeah.
you question, but it speaks to the fact of when we're in that emotional state of there is no other way to move other than forward, but in a different direction. We really have to, what I heard you say is we really have to listen to God, listen to your inner self, listen to your higher self, however it is you connect, but the answers will appear. But you also talked about, dis-ease
Mm.
as you saw her, which I'm sure you were supporting her emotionally and, in all other ways prior to figuring this out, prior to someone calling you and saying, I have this product.
Mhm.
You could see the decline in her, and you could probably feel it in yourself. Just briefly, if you would, how was that like for you just prior to knowing there was hope for her? How did that feel for you?
Oh my gosh. I had been at every surgery. I had been at every aftermath of, the crying and the tears when it didn't work. So as we progressed through just a tiny bit of less pain in a day or a tiny bit of more sleep in a night or one less pill that she had to take was a celebration.
Hmm.
It was very emotional, but also very difficult because some of these medications, ADHD medication, for example, there's 3 methamphetamines in that medication. It was night sweats for 5 nights. It was like, the worst of the worst alcoholic coming off of a binge and changing the bed 3 times in the middle of the night every night until we got that out of her system. It was hard work, Elizabeth. I kept encouraging that tomorrow could be that day that it was 1 more hour of sleep, that it's 1 less pill we're taking. So that hope, that progress in hope, I'll say, because hope is a big word and has way more meaning to me now than it did 7 years ago. Hope you can have little bits of, and you can have a whole bucket full of hope, but it depends on the progress you're making as to the hope grows in progress.
Interesting.
So, right? So we would have to revisit day 1 of I don't want to live anymore to we are out to lunch today. We are having lunch together today in a restaurant that you would have never come to before because she couldn't even comb her hair.
Wow. I love that. What I'm hearing too was that these little tiny celebrations, that's that hope that you held on to. It's almost like there was a beacon of light ahead of you, but you didn't know the outcome. You didn't know how you would reach it. You didn't know what the bottom line is you didn't know what the answer was.
Right.
And yet you just took a tiny step at a time. And when it was a step forward, you had this, and knowing you as well, but you have this energy of gratitude. Let's be, we're going to be grateful for that. We're going to celebrate this tiny little step, even though you had no idea at the moment what the answer was going to be, and she didn't know, right? And sometimes that tiny little willingness to take that tiny little step forward, and as you said, be hopeful or celebrate, well, I got 5 more minutes of sleep today. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves that our life has to be perfect and everything has to go well. And when we're in a space where we're challenged, and you use the word toxic several times as well, and I know exactly what you're talking about, the physical toxicity, right? We can talk about the mental and emotional toxicity or relationship toxicity, which we're not going to go there today, but it's something that is off, that if I may use this word, almost feels like it's poisoning us or stops us, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And you, along with finally listening the second time, kudos to you, because it usually takes me longer. But, finally listening because the answer was given to you, and the answer always is. We
Mhm.
just have to get out of our own way sometimes to listen, is to reduce the toxicity. Sometimes that's how we think about ourselves, or sometimes we put up walls, or we're afraid to take that next step. You saw this beacon of light. You didn't know how far it would be. You didn't know what the answer was, but you both were willing to take this tiny little step of encouragement, finding that somewhere during the day. And that sustained you to the next day and the next day. And then guess what? All of a sudden, because you listened, you found the answer, and she got better and better and better. And like, how did that feel for you when you saw her get better and make huge leaps?
When she started going outside of the home, that was like, wow. Just my heart leapt. And I really believed the next step would be a job. And then that day came. She got a job.
Wow.
And we celebrated with dinner. We went out to dinner, not lunch, right? The first 6 months she was at her new job, she got an award that was never given to anyone that's had been there under a year. She was doing that well. Elizabeth, I help people all day long with toxicity in their bodies, but when you can help your own, and she's my only blood child, it, there is a humble yet powerful energy that fills your heart, because without having the kind of help and the guidance that I had, I would have lost her. And I was projecting what it would be like to have life without her prior to starting this process. And that was like turned a mother into a puddle. Just the thought of it, let alone, I can't imagine having it happen. And then to go from that to the process. But it was also very scary. The process was scary because I didn't have a background in health. And because every doctor would tell you, no, you're going to be on that the rest of your life. You're going to just So we walked into an unknown frontier filled with chemicals and toxicity that we knew nothing about. And I would have to go in my room and talk to myself when she would have a full rash on one arm that was just bright red and oozing. And then I'd go read about the body, that the skin is the largest organ on the body. And when toxins are coming out of it, it's very common. So I got really good at going, oh, that is a beautiful rash. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my goodness. Let's find something that will lessen the heat and stop the scratching.
Mm.
And we would, we learned how to manage the exit process of all of these toxins that were coming out. So it was terrifying,
Mm-hmm.
full of curiosity during the process, educational, profound at the results that were coming out, and glorious to see her now just 3 weeks ago now. 3 weeks ago, she moved out. She's gainfully employed on zero meds, has a boyfriend, and she moved out on her own at 47. She has her life back, Elizabeth. And I'm so grateful I was not the person that said, but I don't know how to do this. The truth is, I didn't know how to do this. But every mother wants to save a child. And so sometimes we have to step into the unknown and grab a hold of whatever we can to get a little bit more information each day to take that one more step.
Mm.
And like you said, it will come. The answers will come.
I love that. Well, I think I reflect back on what you shared with us, and your journey began with asking,
Mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to ask. And then I loved what you said, to be curious, curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
education. So curiosity, being open, asking and being open, and then education, learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Learning. And that's taking action too, taking that one little step. Okay, well, let me be curious. And what else? And what else? And what if? And what if? Great
Mm-hmm.
questions to ask ourselves, right? And then the last word you said was glorious. I mean, you ended, and she ended up in a total different shift of beautiful glory, right? So let me ask you this. What would you say, what would be one thing that you would say to someone who might be in a place such as you, where you feel like you felt like you didn't know what the next step was. Your back was against the wall. She said, "That was it. I'm done." What would be one thing that you would say to someone who might be struggling with that?
I think what I would say, Elizabeth, is that an unplanned diagnosis is not fatal. It's not fatal, and it doesn't mean that we're powerless.
Mm.
So being able to step back, many, many times people want to go from sick to well. And the expectation of from sick to well, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. How long did it take you to get sick? Some people have been on the sofa with a diagnosis for 25 years, taking medications the same kind, maybe more of the same kind, for many, many years. It takes time to get this out of your body. But I promise you this, If you get this toxicity out of your body, if you walk the process and celebrate the small wins, the extra hour of sleep, the movement, going from, the bedroom to the kitchen without having to stop and take a rest. If you celebrate those things, the healing will come, because when the toxicity is out, unstoppable healing is possible, because the body was designed to heal itself.
Beautiful. So many beautiful words. I hope that listeners have and may listen several times, in so many words that are so profound, that can lead us down that path of healing in whatever it is that someone's struggling with. But just knowing that there's a next step and a next step, and don't be so hard on yourself. I love that you said we are so powerful, and we are. Um, One last question, in a word or two, if you'd like to share, what brings you peace in your day right now?
Knowing that I'm not alone and the one that has to come up with all the answers.
I love that. Just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. This is why I was so looking forward to having this conversation with you. Absolutely amazing. So, Diane, where can listeners connect with you?
Yes, I absolutely welcome conversations about where you are on your health journey. You can reach me at 206-419-9447. Please text me first and tell me how you know me, that you heard me on Elizabeth's podcast, and that will help me understand where you're coming from.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I hope others reach out to you, because what a compelling and beautiful story. And I am in gratitude that both of you are so well, and life is so abundant, and everything that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much, Diane, for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. And thank you, all of you, for being here today. If one person came to mind while you were listening, please feel free to share this conversation with them, because sometimes healing begins simply by realizing we're not alone. You can find Untangling the Heart on YouTube, LinkedIn, and wherever you enjoy podcasts. And be sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And until next time, from my heart to yours.
We've all got stories we don't say out loud, little knots we hide away. You're not broken, you're just learning to be honest with what you feel today. This is untangling the heart, one brave breath, one tiny start, finding strength in every scar and every part. You're not falling apart, you're just untangled.